right, good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon session of the Landmarks Preservation Commission's public hearing and public meeting of October 22nd, 2024. This meeting is being held in our hearing room, but you can also tune in through Zoom or through our YouTube channel where we are live streaming. And we are resuming this afternoon with public hearing item number 7, and I will turn it over to our Director of Preservation, Corey Harala, to take us through the afternoon items.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And just to note for those of you joining now for the first time, hearing item 6 was laid over and will be presented at a future date. So public hearing item number 7, LPC 24-08215. It's an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the borough of Brooklyn, block 1838, lots 10 and 11. 164 Hancock Street in the Bedford Historic District. This is a parking area and garage building, and the application is to demolish the garage and construct a new building.
The screen is blank.
Oh, it's just like that.
Yeah.
Do you have an extra computer?
Yes, we do.
I'm kidding.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, this just. There's no power.
I went out to. So I had to plug into another outlet, but I think the service is right for the day.
Get out of the way.
Edith, could you please advance the slides for this first applicant while we find the source of power outage?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so Edith can hear me somewhere. Okay. Good morning, commissioners. Edith, could you advance the slide, please?
Yeah, just say next slide for each one and speak clearly into the mic.
Got it.
Thank you.
Next slide. Stay here, please. Jackie Pudu-Vallon, JPD Preservation Consulting. I'm here today with Ana Maria Torres of AT Architects. I'm just going to briefly introduce the project to you, and then the architect will go through the details. So this is 164 Hancock Street, a proposal for a new building and the demolition of a garage in the Bedford Historic District. In June 2023, commissioners voted to approve the construction of a new building on the lot to the right at 162 Hancock, where it says Lot 9 above the building. Next slide. The new building is proposed for a lot on the south side of Hancock Street between Nostrand and Marcy Avenues, but closer to Nostrand, as shown on the district map. Here are some photos of existing conditions. On the right, you can see the current empty lot in context with the streetscape. Going left to right on the bottom is the view of the lot as one is standing in front of the sidewalk. In the middle is the view looking into the lot, and on the right is the view looking north from the rear of the lot. In the center photo, you can see a portion of the garage that's proposed for demolition. It's somewhat situated behind the house that's standing at 168 Hancock. Next slide. So here are photos of that garage. It's a modest structure built of concrete block and brick. We could not ascertain date of construction. Next slide, please. As these historic maps of the block show, the lot that is now 164 Hancock Street has always been an empty lot. In the upper left corner is the 1887 Sanborn map, which shows this lot remaining as the first houses were being built throughout the block. The 1908 and 1936 maps show the empty lot remaining as the rest of the block would continue to be built out. The bottom right is the most recent Sanborn map from 2007. This and the adjacent lot, which is 162 Hancock, again, where you previously approved a new building last year, were always separate lots, and they were always used as gardens and later a parking area for the house that stands at 168 Hancock. Next slide. Here's a survey which shows the L-shaped lot and the existing garage at the rear of the lot. Next slide. And now I would like to introduce the architect, Ana Maria Torres, who will take you through the design. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Jackie, for the introduction. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time. Is possible to go back to the slide previous? Yeah, it's just that I want to point out as a complementary information from Jackie, the original lot of 168 Hancock, it has an L shape with the garage. When the new owner purchased the whole property, they reapportioned the lots, the lot 10 and the lot 11. This is why now the delineation on red is the lot 10 that includes the garage. The reason of requesting the demolition of the garage then doesn't have any kind of architectural character per se, is to create a continuous garden on the rear and to don't have the, kind of the block or the barrier. Next, please. Then in here you begin to see the front facade of lot 10, 164 Hancock. Then is in between the 162 Hancock that we presented last year and 168. The concept is to maintain the same heights. Please, next slide. Then you can see in the render that has been carried on from 160 to 162 and now is carried to 164. This is a front view from the street across, and we have visual studies of why you don't see not the fourth floor or the bulkhead from across the street. Next. This is a comparison. All the next slides that you will see is the volume comparison between 164 and 168 in this particular case, and then in relationship with the block and the other buildings. This building, just for your information, is not fully using all the FDR that is available. It's not fully massive. Maintains the front facade plane, then is carried from 160. As you can see, the facade is recessed from the property line, and the fourth floor is also stepped in 15 feet, the same from the rear. Next. Sorry, can you go back one more? The steps, then you see this is garden, is a stepping garden coming from the cellar going up, then everything that is garden is no building. Keep going, next please. This is in relationship with the block, and all the highlight buildings that are the ones that are larger buildings within the block. The length of the buildings goes from approximately 70 feet, then is like a 168 Hancock, then is 69 and 11 inches plus, and 91 feet plus. They are facing Halsey, and our building is 95 feet long. Next. This is how within the same analysis than we did before, the building maintains the height of the block on the front facade, and the red indicates how the proportion of garden and rear yard then the building has in relationship with the rest of the buildings. Next. This reiterative basically is the same information, but to see it in isometric, you will see the north view and the south view, and you can appreciate then the height of the building on the front facade belongs to the same height of all the buildings that are coming from Nostrum. Next. The opposite point of view. Next. This is just a detail to see it more closely, just the the facades then belongs to the block then goes from 152 to 222. And you see the relationship between 160 with 162 and with 164 now, what is the building that we are presenting now. Next. This is the rest of the block. You can keep going next. Next. And that is the rear view of the site from kind of the closer than you can get in the L shape. Actually, this is how it looks because 162 has not been in construction. And actually, this is an actual view of the site, has not been any construction yet. And the 168 really has a larger height than the neighboring buildings. Next. This is the visual study that I referenced before. We have the next 2 pages. This is the visual study front, the front view across the street directly frontal, and with a person of 6 feet height. That is the level that has been taken to establish it. And as you can see, because it's a setback 15 plus feet, and also the ball head has an inclined roof, then you will not see it when you are across the street. Next. This is coming 2 points of view, one coming from Nostrum towards 164 Hancock, and the other one is coming from Mersey towards Nostrum. And the one coming from Nostrum to Hancock, reality, what you see, one thing that I didn't mention is this lot 164 is 26 feet wide, which is wider than many of the lots in the block. And 168, sorry, not too close, not too far. 168 is actually 30 feet, and the building is not fully built property line to property line. This is the reason you have like between 6 feet approximately of a space between the 2 buildings. And that is what you will see. You will see the bay windows that are wrapping around in 168. And in the other view coming from Mersey, what we try to do precisely, because you will see the party wall of the building because you don't have anything, was the idea of to wrapping around the facade, only adding 1 window. We're understanding is a lot line window, and it will have all the requirements by code, but kind of wrapping around the materials, kind of wrapping around the detailing. Next. This is the same, but a bigger picture, and also the stairs of the entrance stair, they are all aligned with the block coming from 160. Next. This is now the 2Ds of the same things that we saw from facade. Next. Rear facade, where is the relationship on height? Belongs to the same height of 160, then is the building, then is more to the left, then 162, and then 164. Then actually the building in the upper floors on the second and third, they are setting back and creating kind of an terraces incorporated within the envelope of the building. And then in the last is the 4th floor open house, then is recess 15 feet. The height of the building is in relationship with the 162, but is the 168 is much higher building than will be 164. Next. This is what we were talking about when we saw the point of view studies. Then we wrap around the corner just to incorporate 1 window and to kind of turn around the facade. And also in the rear, we add some detailing of cornice and details around the windows, and we put also lot-like windows. Then because we understand and the building is longer than other buildings, then you don't have the sense, then you just have a wall, then it's just a solid brick wall to give a little bit more of treatment like you will do on the front facade. Next. This is just an illustrated elevation. Then you see the second garden. Then it's coming from the cellar. Then it's not a construction. It's just a garden. And instead of creating a wall to kind of having a stepping garden, then we feel then it's much more, pleasing to see from the cellar. Next. Then now for the next images, we'll go kind of just quick to go through the characteristics of the building, the maintains, the materiality by using brick, brown stone, the same materials, then they are kind of similar on the building next door, but we maintain the colors that we have in 162 to give a little bit of uniform, like the developments, and when you have 2 or 3 brown stones that are similar because they were built over the same person at the same time with the same developer. Next. Then in here is the bay windows. There are throughout the block, you have 2 different types. You have the bay windows that go all the way vertical. We did that in 162. In here to establish a little bit of difference, and also because the facade is 26 feet wide, to make it a little bit less massive, we only concentrate the bay window on the first floor, between the first floor and second floor, but it has the depth, then has all the bay windows within the block. It's not coming more than the other bay windows. They are at the same plane. Next. The same with the windows. We maintain the same proportion of windows and the same ratio than we have in 162, same dimensions. The only difference is that we put, following some of the details of the neighboring buildings, then they have in some cases transom in maybe in the first floor windows or in the second floor windows. In some cases, they have all the way to the third floor. We concentrate the transoms on the first and the second floor, but within the same dimension of windows, say the master is the same dimension throughout the building. Next. This is the rear. Then again, we recuperate again the size of the windows and the transoms on the first floor and second floor, and we are actually using the same proportion of windows. We are bringing the moldings, we are bringing the details around the windows, we are putting brick molding around the windows to have the sense then it's not treated like a rear facade, it has a little bit more flavor. And instead of doing parapets to kind of make it lighter, we put railings on the terraces. Next. This is the same view that we have when we are coming from Nostrum. Next. These are just identify which materials were where. All the brick goes in between the veins, in between, the windows, basically, and the brown stone is around all the detailings on the windows, in the brick molding, and it will be focusing more on the first floor and in the stoop, and then from the first floor up, you will have more combination of brick and brown stone. And the fourth floor open house, it will be a stucco. Next. This is the detail of the stoop. Under the stoop is the entrance to the basement level. The basement level has the ADA apartments, and we have a kind of wrapping around a ramp. It's only going down 1 foot, then it's not very, pronounced. It's just like the ground kind of slowly slow down with a garden in front. And the knee walls, then you see on the render on the bottom, actually they are the knee walls that exist in the property right now. They are only just modified to have access to the building, but they are the same, exactly will be reused in the same location, just they need to be restored. Next. These are the windows, and we are proposed, of course, double hanger windows with fixed transoms, all in wood. Next. Just is to give a recap of you see in 168 in the picture, the knee wall, and you see there is the real one of the Photoshop. The ones that we have, next one is our render version of the knee walls, but they are the same. They change a bit the color, but not in reality. Next. Oh, that's it. We have the appendix. Then the appendix is only just to give you an idea of the overall layout of the building. Next. We have a cellar level that has like all the utilities plus an entertainment room. Then is the one goes up through the stepping garden, and then 2 ADA apartments on the basement. Next, first and second floor, 2 apartments in each floor, with the second floor already begins to have an incorporating terrace. Next. And the third and fourth then are duplex. The fourth floor is set back 15 feet from the front, and another is 14 feet plus on the back. Next. Bulkhead and roof. Next. This is just the section that we saw before to illustrate how the shape everything goes. Next. The front and rear facade in context with 162 Hancock. Next. We already spoke about the east elevation, how we're trying to break the concept of party wall, even though we know then if 168 in one point gets demolished and a new building gets built, these windows will disappear if the building goes built between party wall to party wall. Next. This is the west elevation with the same concept and the same treatment. Understanding in the building is a bit longer than some of the other buildings to have that sense then it has life. And again, if the building in 162 changes, these windows will disappear. Next, I think that is the last. And thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you. And we have a few questions. We'll start with Commissioner Goldblum, followed
Okay,
by
so
Commissioner
Forgive me if
Ginsburg.
I missed it, because I had to run out for a second.
Sure.
The side walls of the buildings that are exposed, what are they made out of?
Brick.
They're made of brick, and you have those little band courses. that
We
are made
have
out
the,
of precast?
yeah, no, they are actually brown stone. We are actually getting, shipping some brown stone from overseas.
So is the side brick the same as the front brick?
Yes,
Um,
but that
and-
is the idea, then to be the same.
Okay. Got it.
Can I
Go
add
ahead,
something?
Go ahead.
On the front facade, because we are kind of want to give the idea, then the facade wraps around.
Right.
The treatment of the windows and everything will be similar and more elaborated than the ones that they are in the rear. In the rear will be with brown stone, but simpler.
And on that side facade that faces the open, that faces the neighbor, that's open, you're wrapping the front facade up until the stoop level. What happens below the stoop level?
With the stoop, we didn't want to continue with the window on the stoop level. We
Right.
just will be brick. Maybe we can put some, keep some trimming. It was just more part of safety because they are too very close to the neighbor, privacy, safety for all the part, from everybody.
And lastly, obviously your building
Yes,
is
sure.
quite a bit deeper than any other building on the block for the most part, certainly than any other townhouse-like building. Why is that appropriate?
Well, sorry. We're trying to make it as as appropriate as possible. We understand and it's larger, but you have buildings, then we have only a difference of 4 feet between our building and other buildings that are in the block. We also think that this building, because it has a very large garden and very large open space, one thing compensates with another. This is the reason it's not fully built. We're trying to incorporate terraces to make it a bit lighter and a little bit, stepping down. Then I think it's a mix of trying to give to the developer as much as possible without not to compromise too much, and trying to give a little bit of, play back and forth with them. Then I think that is our intent.
Okay, last question. You're the same architect doing the building next door, right?
Yes,
So I
sorry.
assume that the brick, the finishes, the
Will be the
details are all
same.
the same.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
On sheet 28, on the wall section, you show insulation in the facade, but none in the roof. I
We will,
presume
you
that-
will need to have it by, if we can comply with, with energy code, it's I think like a
And then-
33 or something like this.
Not that this is our area to talk about, but there's some thermal breaks you could work on to
Yeah,
make the building more efficient. Thank you.
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
That is given.
Other questions? Jackie, did you want to add something?
Just going back to one of Commissioner Goldblum's questions, I think the massing at the rear, yes, thank you, Edith. I actually wish that this image now also included the view of the rear of 168, the existing building, because that has a very large, full height rear addition on it, which I believe provides context for the size and massing of the addition at the back of this proposed building. The architect has also broken up that massing so that even though the footprint looks large, it's actually going to, recede in places. It's not going to be a monolithic, larger rear. And this, I also just want to point out, this is a somewhat unique situation in that they have a much deeper lot than other buildings within the block. And as she had shown on the axonometric views, there are other deep additions on other buildings within the block. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, commissioners, if there are no questions at this time, we'll move to public testimony. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have a couple of remote participants with their hands raised. The first we'll be hearing from is John Graham from the Victorian Society of New York. John Graham, I am going to allow you to talk now. So please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. The Victorian Society supports the construction of a new building at this historically empty lot, just as we did for the new house at 162 Hancock, heard in 2023. We found that the design of the new building to be excellent in terms of materials, details, and scale. However, we feel that the proposed building could be more responsive to its neighbors and to the streetscape. The applicants have provided photos of the block showing that this is not one of those streets which retains long stretches of identical row houses. However, even in this context, we believe that it would improve the streetscape if the facades at 162 and 164 matched in width and were more closely aligned in detail. Reducing the width of the new building would also allow more breathing room around the unique mansion at 168 Hancock. And since the applicant is proposing lot line windows at the rear apartments in the new building, leaving more space between 164 and 168 would also benefit those tenants. We have no objection to the demolition of the minimally detailed garage building at the rear. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Michelle Arbalou from the Historic Districts Council. Michelle Arbalou, I'm calling on you now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hello, Michelle Arbalou for the Historic Districts Council. HDC finds this proposal to be inappropriately scaled for its location. HDC agrees with Brooklyn Community Board 3 that the proposed building is too wide and too deep, crowding the designated corner facade of the historic mansion at 168 Hancock. Given that this land has been a historic community asset to neighbors in Bedford-Stuyvesant for almost 150 years, the proposed building should be shrunk in terms of width and depth to maintain a sense of historic open space and defer to the three designed historic facades of 168 Hancock. HGC notes that 164 Hancock is proposed to be wider than its recently approved sister building at 162 Hancock, which means it can easily be reduced in bulk and aligned with its neighbor. We see no reason not to repeat the already approved proportions of 162 here, and ask the Commission not to approve any building wider or deeper than is on this lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I see that we do have a couple of people in the hearing list. They don't have their hands raised. So Claudette Brady, if you would like to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button now so I know that you're with us. Okay, Evelyn Collier, I believe you're on the phone at the 917 number. Evelyn Collier from Brooklyn CB3, I'm calling on you now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you. Hello, Evelyn Collier, are you with us? And once more, Claudette Brady, are you with us? I see that you're here. If you could click the right. Oh, hi. This is Evelyn
Gregory,
Collier.
I'm unmuted. I'm sorry.
Yes.
This is Evelyn Collier from Community Board 3. Sorry about that.
Okay, if you could please just state your name
Okay,
and start testimony.
Sure. My name is Evelyn Collier, Community Board 3. I'm the Chair of Landmark and Preservation Committee speaking for Community Board 3. It's in reference to LPC application 2408215, which is 164 Hancock Street in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, Bedford Historic District. I'm just going to read my committee comments. Given the building bulk, the committee requests a shadow study. The applicant described that the project will not be built to the maximum height allowed by zoning, given the size of the lot. However, the project depth creates an unusual situation within an historic district. The applicant shared that the rear balconies at the shallow and recessed will be shallow and recessed within the envelope of the building. Nonetheless, they are not a typical historic element in the area. The treatment of the eastern street-facing building corner should align more than a traditional corner lot, such as a different brick point. The proposed new building disrupts the protected residential block with its outsized bulk. It will significantly impact the district's form and is not aligned with the historic character of the district. Therefore, with due consideration, the committee comments, Brooklyn Community Board 3 objects to the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed new building at 164 Hancock Street, Brooklyn. Thank you. Anthony Buseret, Chair. Evelyn Collier, Community Board 3, Landmark Committee Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to the public testimony? Okay, that's all. Yep.
Sorry, Commissioners, I was caught off guard. I thought there'd be more. Jackie Pudu-Vallon again. Regarding the concerns about the scale of the building, its width and its depth of its rear, again, this is a unique situation in that this particular lot is 2 feet wider than the neighboring houses, than the neighboring house designed for 162. And it has a much deeper lot as well. So I look at this as really a design challenge that I think the architect has really answered very well. I don't think the answer is to make the building smaller because I think that what she has presented here is a design that is appropriate to the district. And in its current form, it allows for just creating more space for housing. In particular useful for the ADA compliant apartment at the ground level. Would you like to answer anything? Thank you.
I understand the, oh, sorry, Ana Maria Torres. I understand the concern. Is, this property was very unique, and they combined 4 lots and converted in 3 lots. This is the reason one is 30, 168 is 30 wide, and 164 is 26 feet wide, to make it a shrink, actually, it will be kind of, from the zoning point of view, yes, to be pragmatic, it will be kind of a challenge because it will become a building that is narrow than all the standard buildings on the block, because it will be obliged to leave approximately more than 8 feet to the property line. Then by that, you don't finish with the width of your regular building. Then it will create a kind of a strange proportion within the block. We understand then it's wider, but this is why we're trying to make it then the party wall has a round and has a relationship with the building next door. And the length, there are some buildings that we are kind of related with this, and this is why we trying to open windows and make it a bit more friendly. And this is why we didn't use all the FAR. We didn't try to maximize it. We just trying to make a dwellings and living space that were pleasant and then were spacious. And I think that is the maximum I can answer to give you a reason. And you have a much larger garden than any other property within the block.
Thank you. All right, any questions, commissioners? Any final questions? All right, we'll move to our discussion. Vice Chair Bland, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Diana Chapin. Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed, and we'll begin our discussion on this new building adjacent to a previously approved, commission-approved building on this unusual lot that is long and will be L-shaped. So we first need to discuss the demolition of the existing garage, and then the height, massing, footprint, and then design and composition of the new building and materials, of course. Commissioner Goldblum, would you like to start this one?
Sure. So this is an interesting kind of case. And what we're presented with is a lot that from a zoning perspective offers probably considerably more development space than a typical landmarks townhouse district new building would provide. And the question that it poses for us is, how do you, the fact that the FAR, because of this very bizarre lot, allows for a fairly large building, we often don't feel compelled to comply with zoning limits as landmarks limits. So anomaly one is that you have an unusually high disparity between the FAR and the size of the bulk of the building that the zoning would allow versus what normal rules of thumb for landmark districts would allow. Issue one. Issue two that's unusual is the width of the lot. Issue three is the fact that it's next to this building that has a wraparound three-dimensional quality that already breaks the street wall and creates an unusual situation. So I think that the two latter factors do argue for a less doctrinaire approach to the volume on this building. I think that for me, I think that the way that they've treated the front facade is appropriate. I think it's an interesting transmutation of their first move with their first building was to do a new building that recalls the rhythms and details of the row immediately to the right of it in a new fashion. And I think they were successful at that, and we approved that a few months ago. And here they're taking that and then modifying it again for the wider lot. And I think it's successful. I think that that's a generally successful approach. I think the staff has to look at this with very clear eyes about the detailing, the profiles chosen, the depths, the way that the bricks are laid up and all that stuff that they normally do. But when you're doing a new building that's kind of quasi-traditional like this one is, I think it's very important that those details are going to make the difference. So I think that the width of the building is okay. I think its proximity to the neighbor is appropriate and probably would have been envisioned at that time. And I can recall other buildings that have similar relationships where you have that very anomalous three-dimensional kind of turned corner. I don't think this is too close for that. When it comes to the volume at the back, though, I do have some difficulties with it. The only precedents that they can cite for a building of similar depth are tenements or apartment buildings that certainly predate landmarks. That said, however, the mansion next door does have an anomalously deep rear yard, and there are some 1 or 2 story additions that do go in further. I think that therefore the rear of this should be sculpted back so that maybe it terraces up as it rises. Maybe the first floor can be nearly as deep as it is, or maybe as deep as the neighbor, the mansion. But once it gets above that first floor, I think it really has to set back at the very least to the depth of the pavilion of the neighbor, or to the new building next door to it. I think and I understand that has an impact on the developable lot, and that will result in the removal of a couple of units or the reworking of them, to say the least. And I take that seriously, but I think that the precedent involved in basically creating a kind of almost tenement volume in a mid-block setting for a townhouse row is something that I don't feel comfortable with personally. I think also the staff should look carefully with the applicant at the design of those exposed facades to the extent that they do occur. I think that the use of face brick on the side facade, unless that facade is fully developed, is a peculiar arrangement and is probably not typical. And I think that they should look at the choice of material, the choice of the details, the use of moldings or not. Again, it should feel like it fits in with the block and that it's not a new development. I also find that the proportions of the windows and the kind of the agglomeration of them has a more, generic developer-y feel to it, and they can work on that with staff.
You're speaking to the fenestration pattern on the rear?
Right, those on the sides and the rear, those triple windows, the balconies. It's got I think there are lots of cues that the rear yard facades in this donut provide. And I think they should, in a building that is historicist in its general style, should strive to feel better as a better neighbor.
Okay. And just for the record, the demolition of the
Demolition of the 2 garages, no problem.
Great. Commissioner Ginsburg.
So let me go through. First of all, demo of garages, no problem. In general, I agree with Commissioner Goldblum. In general, the front facade is fine. It creates a sister building to the recently approved building. The building is, I've dealt with sites like this where you have a large area that is undevelopable. So you have a lot of FAR and you can't always use it all. And the building 168 is already basically 70 feet deep. And I think basically the depth of this building should match that which is more than the adjacent buildings, but I think can be a model. And if you pull back there, I also think that the ground floor could extend for getting the 2 handicapped units and having enough space. That would be fine, and then having a terrace in the back above that. But I think that just has to get cut back, and I think this is too much of a change to be with staff and should come back to us.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bland.
I don't need to repeat much of what's just been said because I agree with it. My only real issue is the depth of the building. It just needs to be pulled back, and I won't say how much exactly. I just think it needs to be pulled back, so it's more, so it doesn't invade the donut.
You, Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, I agree generally with other commissioners' comments. I think that the front facade is fine, the garage is fine. I think the width is okay. I think that it protrudes too far into the central space. And I think it should align with the adjacent new building. That's what, I would like to see. I also think that the back currently to me looks very apartment, like an apartment house. It doesn't have to me the same character of the row, and I feel like if it's pulled back, that that may help that particular issue. But it's something about the character right now looks like it's just some apartment house somewhere. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see them work on that more.
Thank you. Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I'm largely in agreement with the other commissioners' comments. The demo of the garage is fine. The front facade is fine. The width of the building is fine. The depth, I understand what they want in terms of the depth because the lot is extra long and it has an L shape. My opinion is that you don't necessarily need to pull it back as much as the adjacent new building. But it looks like it's even farther than 146, 148. And at a minimum, I would align it with that. So I think the depth is the only problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, commissioners, for your thoughtful comments. So we'll take no action today. We'll ask you to work on this some more. Yes, Commissioner Goldblum.
Just to add, I mean, if you look at how the mansion next door articulates its extension, it does so not only by just being longer, but it shapes it and it pulls it in and out a little bit so that it kind of reads like a pavilion in the block, which might be something they could consider. It might make the transition with the rest of the block easier while allowing perhaps a little bit more volume.
Okay. So we'll ask you to think about the comments you've heard. I think it's largely about the footprint and the depth of the building and thinking about ways to terrace it or sculpt it so that and set it back so that it fits more comfortably within the historic context. So we'll thank you. We'll take no action and we'll have you back as you're ready. Thank you.
All right, we'll now move to the next items. Public hearing item number 8, LPC 25-02053. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, block 443, lot 47, 309 Carroll Street in the Carroll Gardens Historic District. This is a row house with neo-Greek style elements built before 1878-79. And the application is to construct a rear deck and alter the side yard and garden wall.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. This project, let's see. This project is for the installation of a rear yard deck at the parlor level of a single-family townhouse with stairs down to the garden, including replacing a window with a door for access to the deck, modifications to the existing garden wall and door, and cosmetic upgrades to the garden itself. I am the architect of record for the project. I'm representing the designer Brook Landscape. As the gentleman said, the project is located at 309 Carroll Street in Brooklyn in the Carroll Gardens Historic District on the corner, the northwest corner of Carroll Street and Hoyt Street. Here's a picture of our townhouse on the corner from the front. And that's 1970. Next slide shows on the far left a picture from 1940. You can see in the red box there was a wood fence at the very back of the lot. The middle picture shows the front facade and the side of the building on Hoyt Street. And then in the far right, you can see our building with the rear garden wall as it exists today, the stucco wall. It's a stucco garden wall with a metal door. Here we have the existing conditions. You can see the stucco wall with the black metal door. This is the rear facade. We would be removing this window, keeping the existing masonry opening on the height and the width, and taking it down to the level of the deck. The site plan shows the rear yard and the side yard, which is just, there's a planting bed right here at the north. The rest of it is just poured concrete with a bluestone coping at the edge. Here's the existing plan. So our proposal is to install a deck 8 feet deep by 15 feet wide off the second floor with a staircase down to the garden. The deck would be comprised of bluestone pavers and treads and black painted steel structure and railings. At the garden level, we propose to move the door to the side yard 14 inches to the north, so it aligns with the new deck above. The step down to the sidewalk, we would like to move so that it occurs on the outside of the garden wall. The step would be bluestone. The existing ironwork would be modified to match the existing ironwork per the new door location and the step. And we would like to put a planting bed on the side, the other side of the step, to match with the planting bed at the north. This is just a little detail of just a simple railing that we would like to do. So these elevations show the existing black door and stucco wall. And then our proposal is shifting the door so that it aligns with the deck. And we would be kind of striking this datum line with the oriel window on the side. And we'd also like to put a bluestone coping stone on top of the existing stucco wall. Which would project beyond the face of the existing stucco wall by 1 inch. And then this slide shows 2 precedents in the neighborhood. Not exactly what we're proposing. This one is a rear yard extension with a deck above, and then this is a 2-story rear yard extension, but similar in that there's something being done to the back of the building. We wanted to keep our proposal kind of a little bit lighter, and that's why we're just doing a metal railing. I know that the planting is sort of outside of your purview, but we felt that just keeping it light, letting the building exist as the building, and letting the greenery create the privacy was the best move for us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have any questions, commissioners? Yes,
Um,
Commissioner Chapin.
Sort of irrelevant to the thing, I think, but The wall, what's the wall made? Is
The
it-
garden wall right now, it's stucco. I mean, I think it's probably block.
I was just puzzled about, the color, which doesn't seem to have anything to do with the walls of the buildings adjacent, but that's really not
Yeah.
being proposed or anything, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Other questions? All right, let's see. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? All right, noting that there isn't in the hearing room, I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. If you are in the Zoom hearing and you would like to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button now. Okay, John Graham from the Victorian Society of New York, I am calling on you now.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society of New York. The Victorian Society supports this modest proposal. The rear facade masonry will be minimally altered, and the visible balcony is typical and will not be distracting. We think the change to the garden wall is positive. It breaks up the expanse of dark masonry. In the original proposal, it appeared as if the gate was going to be slightly taller than the wall, but I see today that is not the case. However, we would suggest that the door itself can incorporate additional detailing such as recessed or open ironwork panels. Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 6 recommends approval on the condition that the capping be thicker, wider, and made of bluestone. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
All right, thank you. Would you like to address any of the comments we've heard? I know that you are proposing a bluestone coping on the wall, and
Right.
did you make some revisions to the thickness of it after the community board hearing?
Yes, we made it the full width of the existing stucco wall and a little bit thicker.
All right, and we heard from the Victorian Society of New York, they support the application, but did suggest
Yeah,
a detail on the door. Do you
Great.
have any thoughts on that?
I think we're open to exploring that and incorporating that.
Maybe can we go back to the elevations? We can just see it.
Sure. Am I driving or?
Yes, you can just click on the screen and you can advance the slides.
No, it's the previous one. Nothing's happening. Oh, okay. My mouse is not.
You could just click on the screen, like click anywhere on the screen to activate.
Oh, on this screen?
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, and you're proposing a wood door, wood slatted door.
Yep.
All right. Commissioners, any final questions? All right, let's move to our discussion. Commissioner, Vice Chair Bland, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion? A second? Will you second the yeah. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so this is an application to install a deck, modify a window to create a door to provide access to the deck, and then to modify the stucco wall along the side yard or the rear yard to raise it with a bluestone coping and to shift the door both in its location and also its swing to so that it aligns with the stucco wall. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Master, would you like to start this one?
Sure. I think this is a fairly modest proposal. I think if anything, it improves the look from the streetscape. I think the wall is fine. And I think that the railing on the deck is also, it's visible, but I think it's typical of what we see. So I can find this appropriate.
Commissioner Ginsburg?
Agreed, appropriate.
Do we all agree?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody agrees on this one. So will you make the motion, Commissioner Master?
In the matter of LPC 25 02053, 309 Carroll Street, Carroll Gardens Historic District, a row house with neo-Gothic style elements built before 1878 to 79. Application is to construct a rear deck and alter the side yard and garden wall. I note that the building's scale, style, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of Carroll Gardens Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not eliminate or damage any significant architectural features, that the proposed deck, which will be visible from Hoyt Street at this corner building, will be simply designed and typical in terms of placement, size, material, and finish, and will not call undue attention to itself, that relocating the garden wall door will not impact any significant historic fabric, and that material and design of the new door will be in keeping with other garden doors found along Hoyt Street within this historic district. That only a small amount of the historic fence will be removed to accommodate the new gate, and the new gate will match the historic fence in terms of material and design, and that the work will not detract from the special architectural or historic character of the building or the historic district.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion?
Second.
Mark, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland. Aye. Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 6 in favor, none opposed, the motion passed.
Okay, that's approved. Thank you very much. We'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 9, LPC 25-00381. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, block 65, lot 2, 63 Nassau Street, the 63 Nassau Street building individual landmark. This is an Italianate style building built circa 1844 and later altered circa 1857-59 by James Bogardus. The application is to replace storefront infill and windows and construct a rooftop bulkhead. I will note that although originally advertised for window replacement, that's been revised and will be reviewed at staff level. So it's the storefront infill and bulkhead that we're looking at today.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Caroline Passion, Preservation Staff. The subject property is located on the west side of the street, mid-block, between John Street and Maiden Lane. As Corey mentioned, there are 2 components of this application. You'll be reviewing the replacement of storefront infill at the ground floor and the construction of a visible rooftop stair bulkhead. So this building had a history of alteration since its construction. It was built circa 1844 and later altered circa 1857 to 59 with the cast iron facade. And these historic images show the typical storefronts at 63 Nassau Street and its neighbors in 1928. And you'll note the 2 deeply recessed glass storefronts at number 63. And by the time of designation, the storefronts and the firescape had been removed. So here are the existing and proposed elevations showing the new storefront infill and the stair bulkhead. The stair bulkhead will be located at the rear of the building, and it will be sloped and feature painted brick to match the party wall. It will be visible from a limited number of vantage points. So from here, you'll see this to the south. Some photos showing the existing roof conditions, the mock-up of wood studs. And it will not be visible over the primary facade, but as you head south, you will start to see it from very limited vantage points. You see that up here. And then further at the intersection at Maiden Lane and Nassau Street. And then as you head further south, it starts to not be visible. And then along Maiden Lane, you will see the bulkhead east and west of Nassau Street. And then again, as you head further west on Maiden Lane, you no longer see the bulkhead. And then the proposed storefront infill will consist of 2 painted wood and glass storefronts. It will feature display windows, transoms, and paneled bulkheads with 2 sign bands above each storefront. And probes were performed and it was discovered that the cast iron piers were extant. And you'll see here in plan recessed entrances for the storefronts and for the residential above. And then just some close-up photos of the existing cast iron and details of the section, the cornice, and just to show how the interior of the conditions at each storefront. And that photos was taken at the time of designation. Paint finishes or paint, there was some restorative work at staff level, and a paint analysis was performed. And then we just have some floor plans, and that's the proposal. And we have the owner, Ryan Sani, who is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say at this time, or? And just
Was very fun undertaking this, and we reviewed several of his previous works and tried to restore with the historical paint analysis, the layers of paints, and we're looking forward to finishing this in totality.
thank you. All right, any questions, Commissioners? Yeah, okay. And I'll note that, is there anyone no one in the hearing room would like to testify on this proposal. So I'll turn it over to Gregory to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have one participant with their hand raised, that being John Graham from the Victorian Society in New York. John Graham, I'm calling on you now. So please unmute your line and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. The Victorian Society supports the proposed changes at this very important example of cast iron architecture. We're happy to see that the work at the ground floor will include the restoration of the 2 cast iron pilasters which flank the ground floor opening. The proposed painted wood storefront infill is well proportioned and detailed and appears to be very similar to the examples shown in the LPC storefront guidelines. The paint colors are appropriate and the concealed lighting above the entrances is quite unobtrusive. However, we must object to the applicant's proposal on board LPC 25 concerning lighting and signs for the 2 storefronts, which states, separate applications will be submitted by the individual commercial tenants for the installation of lighting fixtures and signage. Signage is fine for individual tenants. However, this opens the door for different exterior light fixtures and incompatible signs for each of the 2 tenants. This is not appropriate for a building of this size with identical adjacent storefronts. The applicant should work with staff to pick one light fixture design and develop sign parameters for both. We also support the construction of the roof bulkhead. It will be visible from the street in certain locations, but will be pushed back to the rear of the building as far as possible from the street. It's also modestly scaled and appears identical to historic roof bulkheads seen in this district. However, we question the use of liquid rubber waterproof sealant on brick. Waterproof sealant on brick can trap moisture and lead to spalling. If there's a desire to match the color of the existing wall, the new bulkhead can be painted with breathable masonry paint. If there's a problem with water infiltration, a good repointing job can take care of it. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 1 recommends approval. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Would you like to respond to any of the comments we've heard? The testimony was largely supportive. There were some questions about the intent for signage and lights. I would say that, there is no requirement that you include them in this application. You can come back to the Landmarks Commission when your tenants may, when they have a proposal, and we would evaluate that. Some types of signs and lights may be approved at staff level, and some may require review by the commission. But if there's anything you'd like to say about it now, or the sealant on the bulkhead. No, okay. And the sealant that was described, is that just on the new bulkhead?
Caroline, do you want to, is it actually going to be another tar coating or is it more of a black paint to match the?
Yes, we have no problem with the black paint.
It's a black paint, sorry.
It is just, right now, it's just matching the existing black sealant that's waterproof and absorbent. We have no problem painting it black or discussing it a little further with LPC staff.
Okay. All right, thanks. All right, so if there are no other questions, let's move to our discussion. And Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. I'm Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion. So we're only reviewing the proposed storefronts, which involve exposing historic cast iron piers, reconstructing a cornice, and doing wood and glass storefront infill, and extending an existing bulkhead, which the applicant said they would paint in black, which is seen against the backdrop of a taller building, and it's set at the back of the roof and visible only from certain locations. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you like to start?
I think this is a pretty easy one. I think it's appropriate. The new storefront's much nicer. This is a little gem between a number of towers, and I think it's fine.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bland?
This project made my day. James Bogardus is the father of cast iron, maybe even in the inventor of cast iron. I have a certain history with it that Sarah might remember of lost Bogardus columns and framework for the earliest ever cast iron building. But that's not here today before us. So it's very exciting to think that we can uncover existing James Bogardus cast iron. So that's really what I'm focusing on more than the other things, which I think are all fine. I think this is fine too. And I think the proportions, et cetera, are right on. And the question of signage and other things, you can come back, a tenant can come back and we'll look at that later. We don't have to see it now. Anyway, great day.
You, Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, I just think it's, it's nice to see this tiny little surviving building between these hulking, neighbors, pretty well preserved in general. And now they'll be restoring the cast iron facade elements, which is great. Everything I think is a positive really. And the bulkhead is minimally visible and, it's not distracting. So I think it's fine.
All righty. Commissioner Master?
Yeah, I agree with all the other comments. I think it's appropriate.
And Commissioner Goldblum. Agreed. I agree as well. And I also want to, commend you for doing the restoration work on the upper floors and the paint analysis to get it right. And I think the combination of this work plus the storefront will really improve this building. So go ahead.
Can I say one more thing? My office is 2 blocks away. I'll be watching carefully, so do it right.
Any questions, reach out to Caroline before you make a decision. All right, so I think we have a consensus to approve, Commissioner
Yes.
Ginsburg.
I'm glad to help make Fred's day. With regards to LPC 25-00381, 63 Nassau Street, 63 Nassau Street building, individual landmark, an Italianate style building built circa 1844 and later altered circa 1857-59 by James Bogardus. Application is to replace storefront infill windows and construct a rooftop bulkhead. I recommend approval, finding that the removal of existing non-historic storefront infill, signage, metal cladding, and roll-down gates will eliminate unsympathetic alterations that detract from the significant architectural features of the building, that the design, detail, configuration, material, and finish of the proposed wood storefront infill featuring large display windows with paneled bulkhead doors with glazed single light transom and articulated wood piers, cornice, and sign band, all with a medium gray painted finish, will be based on historic photograph documentation found on other cast iron buildings of this age and style. That the proposed slope stair bulkhead located at the rear of the roof will be seen over the secondary facade in conjunction with taller buildings and will be painted to match the existing party wall and therefore will not detract from the significant architectural features of the building. That the height of the proposed rooftop bulkhead will support the adaptive reuse of the building to provide housing and will not overwhelm or significantly alter the massing of the building, and that the proposed work will enhance the special architectural historic character of the individual landmark.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Bland, would you second that motion?
Happily.
Right. Mark, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Master.
Aye.
6 in favor and none opposed. The motion passes.
That's approved. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we'll move to the next and final item.
That's public hearing item number 10, LPC 24-09103, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Queens, Block 8050, Lot 53, 233 Park Lane in the Douglaston Historic District. This is an arts and crafts bungalow-style freestanding house designed by David W. Terwilliger and built in 1911, and the application is to construct a rear yard addition.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ryan Zeke, Preservation Staff. This application is for 233 Park Lane. It's to construct a rear yard addition. It's being brought before you today due to the Douglaston Master Plan. If there's any level of visibility, the work has to be brought forward to the Commission. So the applicant, Kevin Wolf, is joining us via Zoom.
Hello, Commissioners. Kevin Wolf here.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm at a disadvantage here because I cannot see the presentation, so I will give it to you in the best format I can. So as Ryan said, it's a 1913 arts and crafts style house. If you are on Park Lane approaching this house, there is one spot where you can see through the neighbor's hedge, over the hedge into the backyard. It's a rear yard mudroom addition. And as you approach the house and get to the driveway, there's another spot where you can see the addition. So the addition is visible for a moment. It is replacing an existing mudroom that's about half the size of the addition. And it's using the same materials as the existing house, which is a brick base. There are synthetic shingles that mimic cedar shingles that were replaced before designation. And so the same materials will be used on this. It's all wood painted windows that will be part of the addition. And the other work that's on the house is on the east facade that faces the driveway. And the east facade cellar windows will be altered to be taller. There is a playroom renovation that's happening in the cellar with a half bath. So the only work on the east facade existing is to those cellar windows, which you can see in the presentation. And that is the bulk of what's happening here.
Thank you. And maybe Ryan, if you can go to the proposed elevation to show those windows. I see. So it's under the bay or dormer. Okay. And that's the existing mudroom that will be replaced with the new addition. You can see that in elevation now. All right. Any questions? No. All right. And I'll note that there's no one in the hearing room. I'll turn it to Gregory and see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have a couple of remote participants with their hands raised. The first we'll be hearing from is John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. John Graham, I'm calling on you now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. We support this proposal for a modestly scaled addition. The original 1911 drawings, which the applicants provided, show that the rear north-facing elevation was always an asymmetrical facade. The demolition of the existing mudroom extension will not destroy any significant amount of historic material. The proposed addition will be minimally visible from the street and will use painted cedar shingles, wood trim, and multi-light windows matching the historic materials. And the new extension will not significantly diminish the open garden suburb character of the district. We also support the change at the basement level on the east facade to the windows. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Michelle Arbalou from the Historic Districts Council. Michelle Arbalou, I'm calling on you now. You'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, Michelle Arbalou for the Historic Districts Council. HDC is happy to support this appropriate proposal. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. There are no further hands raised in the attendees list, so I will just note for the record that Queens Community Board 11 recommends approval. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Thank you. Well, commissioners, do we have any final questions on this one? No? Okay, so I think we'll, Kevin, is there anything else you'd like to say before we move to our discussion? Is he there? Okay. Okay. I don't think he's speaking, so we'll go ahead, I think.
I could ask him. Hello, Kevin, are you with us? And would you like to?
I
add
am.
And would you like to?
No, I don't have anything to add. Thank you very much.
All right, great, thanks. Okay, so we'll, Commissioner Goldblum, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Commissioner Ginsburg, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so this is, as we've seen, an application for a relatively modest addition at the back of the house, which has some minimal visibility. It's matching the materials on the existing house, and to lengthen windows on in the cellar windows on the east, I think it was the east elevation facing the driveway. Commissioner Chapin, would you like to
Thank you.
take this?
Short and sweet, I think, the testimony and also my comments, hopefully. Anyway, I think it's an appropriate minor porch-like addition. It's subservient to the main house. The materials are fine. I think it's minimally visible. You catch a glimpse of it, it could just be a little outbuilding or something. I think it's perfectly appropriate.
All right, does anyone else have any other thoughts on it? Yes, Commissioner Goldblum?
I think it's appropriate as is, but I think that the applicant might look at the eave detail of the addition versus the rest of the house. It seems like even on secondary facades and other places in the house in the back even, that kind of the deep overhang with the bracket or the exposed raft or whatever it is kind of typical, and it would probably make it blend in a little bit better, especially because you see it kind of rakish from the side. So the overhang is very much an emphasized detail. So it might help it blend in a little bit, but it's okay as is.
Okay, all right, so we can ask them to explore or refine the eave detail with the staff. So Commissioner Chapin, would you make that motion?
In the matter of a certificate of appropriateness, Borough of Queens, LPC 2409103233 Park Lane, Douglaston Historic District. An arts and crafts bungalow-styled freestanding house designed by David W. Terwilliger and built in 1911. Application is to construct a rear yard addition. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Douglaston Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not alter or eliminate any significant architectural features or landscape improvements, that the proposed rear yard addition will not rise to the full height of the building's main roof line, thereby remaining subordinate to the historic structure and maintaining the historic form of the house, that the cumulative footprint of the house, including the addition, will not exceed 30% of the lot and will be in keeping with the lot coverage of neighboring houses in the streetscape, that the design, style, and materials of the proposed rear yard addition, featuring painted cedar shingling siding, painted brick, multi-light wood windows and doors, and a standing steam copper roof will harmonize with the house. and that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the historic district, and that the applicant will work with his staff on the details of the overlay.
Thank you. And Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second.
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland. Aye. Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Master.
Aye.
6 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
So that's approved. And that concludes our public
Thank
hearing.
you, everybody.
Thank you. And we will, our next public meeting and hearing will be October